Greetings, fellow Americans. Welcome to Fireside Chats, State of Our Nation. I am your host, Susanna Tanner, candidate for House of Representatives 2026 and President 2028. So I went down to the No Kings protest on Saturday at the waterfront in Vancouver, Washington. So here's a clip from the protest. The people speak, and as we should not stop for any reason. It is our right, our First Amendment right. Now, I have heard that across the nation, this particular protest was largely peaceful, and there was no violence during these protests, during the nationwide protests. However, I did hear that shortly after the No Kings protest ended, that there were some separate protesters who took it upon themselves to protest at the ICE building in Portland, Oregon, and they apparently lit something on fire in front of the ICE building doors, and some tear gas was released, from what I understand. Let's make something clear. People who commit acts of violence in protest are breaking the law. Acts of violence defeat the purpose of a peaceful protest. Committing acts of violence risks the freedom of the individual who commits those acts. So, I have a question for those who choose to commit acts of violence in protest, or those who are thinking of choosing to commit those acts. Is it worth losing your freedom? Is it worth acquiring a criminal record? Is leaving your family to spend time in jail worth a violent protest? We can accomplish so much more using peace. That is why we use our voices like we did on Saturday at the No Kings protest and at the Hands Off protest a few months ago. Something that I hope those of you who are thinking of committing acts of violence in the future do think about. Now, Saturday was also the 250th birthday of the Army. I know many veterans. I know many individuals in the armed forces, male and female. Did you know that the United States Army predates the Declaration of Independence by almost a little over a year? That is very cool. It makes sense, though, because without an army to back up the people, we would not have been able to establish our nation as it is. We would not have been able to establish the initial 13 colonies to grow into the nation that we have become today. There are many ways that we can improve our armed forces all around, every branch. Obviously, healthcare is a must, mental and physical healthcare. We cannot support our troops without those two items, those two things. Physical and mental health services are essential for not just training the soldiers, but for preparing them for after their service in the military. There's a couple of ways that we can do this. Obviously, it would take a group of people to come up with a solid curriculum for training. However, some of the things that we can do is make sure that our physicians are available regardless of whether they are VA physicians or a private physician or a public physician, making sure they're available, and that's including mental health physicians. so that our soldiers have someone they can learn emotional self-control from, someone who can help them with making sure their uh, physical needs are taken care of, their physical health needs, making sure if they get sick, they have adequate recovery time, making sure that they have the proper medication, all of those things. There's also technology that we can use to improve our military, our overall military. Technology, not necessarily bombs or guns or anything like that, but improvements in surveillance, in different computer systems that we use for our armed forces. Different things like that can be upgraded. They can be, if there's something that is not there, we can probably create it. We do have many brilliant minds here in the United States. It's just a matter of making sure that they can do what they say they're going to do, what they say they can do. Also making sure that our people who do develop these weapons have also adequate physical and mental health, because working on projects like that can be taxing for not just the military, but for the scientists and others involved. There's also making sure that our military is able to mingle with our population more. This would actually be part of their training, because in order to really be able to exit the military and reacclimate into regular society, they're going to need to have regular interaction with regular society, with outside of the military society. There's no reason why we can't do this. We can implement different uh, scenarios for such, you know, um, for such a tour, as they would call it in the military. A period time of about 3 months where you're in the city or you're in a large town, something like that, where there's reason to mingle, reason to be there and interacting with the local communities. And being able to travel around the United States to interact with different communities, different types of communities, is also going to be essential. It's not about militarizing it, though. It's not about that. It's more of an assignment-based type of tour, type of assignment. Of course, there's much more to that that can be explained later. We also need to make sure that our veterans have a place to go. Housing. Transition housing is one option. There's also making sure that their pay is adequate enough to be able to support themselves without having to go through transition housing. There's also the college aspect. I know that there are some veterans who take advantage of the college opportunities that the military has to offer. So making sure those are available, the funds are available for that, is definitely going to be important. So I also wanted to say Happy Father's Day to all of the dads out there. It is Sunday, Father's Day. So our fathers have a special place for us. And our fathers are not always a biological parent. Fathers can be someone who a child has chosen to call dad. They can be an aunt, or they can be an aunt. They can be an uncle. They can be a grandpa. They can be the next door neighbor. If a child is comfortable enough to call a next door neighbor dad, believe that that child knows there's something good about that person. Dads are important to all of our families in one way or another. They teach us a lot that a mom can't teach us. regardless of whether we are male or female. So happy Father's Day to all those dads, especially since having a dad is really beneficial to most of our children. That is all I have for today. I thank you for your time, and may our path lead to peace and prosperity.